All right, today we're diving into something pretty wild. A diplomatic bombshell that has really shaken up the NATO alliance. Turns out, a leaked report suggests the U.S. was thinking about an unprecedented move against Spain, one of its own allies. And it all raises this one huge question.
Can a country actually be kicked out of NATO? I mean, think about it. For an alliance built entirely on the principle of collective defense, that's not just some theoretical what if. It's right at the heart of a major dispute that's showing some really deep cracks in the world's most powerful military alliance.
So, how did we even get here? Let's jump right in. This all kicked off with a threat against an ally. The whole story really starts with this one bombshell report, all because of a single leaked email from inside the Pentagon.
So Reuters got their hands on this thing, and yeah, that leaked email was floating the idea of punishing allies who weren't, pulling their weight in a recent conflict. But the most shocking part? The suggestion that the U.S. could try to suspend Spain from the entire alliance, just wow.
And it didn't just stop with Spain, not by a long shot. The memo laid out other potential punishments, like sidelining what it called difficult countries from important NATO jobs. It even suggested the U.S. could pull its support for the U.K.'s claim to the Falkland Islands. I mean, that is a serious warning shot fired at another key ally.
Okay, so you're probably asking, why would a memo like this even get written? And to get that, we've got to zoom out and look at the bigger picture. That brings us to the whole context here, the U.S.-Iran war.
So here's how it went down. Back in late February, the U.S. and Israel attacked Iran. Tehran hit back by restricting shipping in the Strait of Hormuz, which is a huge deal. The U.S. escalated again with a blockade and more strikes. But when Washington turned to its NATO allies for backup, they were met with, well, a lot of hesitation. And that's really when the frustration started to boil over.
And let's be honest, this frustration isn't exactly new. President Donald Trump has been saying for years that NATO is a one-way street. The idea that the U.S. does all the protecting and gets nothing back. That feeling is really the key to understanding why that Pentagon memo was so harsh.
So, what was the final straw with Spain? Well, Madrid said no to letting the U.S. use its military bases, Rota and Marone, for attacks on Iran. For the Pentagon, that was a huge deal, a major breach of trust. The memo basically argued that letting allies use your bases and airspace, that's the absolute baseline for being in the club.
You can imagine, when news of this memo broke, it sent absolute shockwaves across Europe. So, naturally, we need to look at how European leaders responded. Let's see how some of the key players reacted to this threat. First up, Spain's Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez. He was quick to try and calm things down, basically saying his government deals with official documents, not leaked emails. But even as he dismissed it, he subtly drew a line in the sand. He made it clear that any cooperation from Spain has to follow international law. Germany, on the other hand, came out swinging with immediate and total support for Spain. A government spokesperson just laid it out there, crystal clear. Spain is a member of NATO, and I see no reason why that should change. That's about as firm a show of solidarity as you can get.
Then you have Italy's Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni. She took a slightly different approach. She actually used this whole mess to argue for a stronger, more independent European pillar inside NATO. The idea being that Europe should complement the US, not just follow its lead.
The UK's response was a bit more complicated. London did let the US use its bases for some strikes, but Prime Minister Keir Starmer also drew a pretty clear line. He said that getting any more involved was just not in Britain's national interest. So, a bit of a balancing act there.
Okay, so we've got threats coming from Washington and some serious diplomatic pushback from Europe. But this all leads back to that one crucial question. What do the actual NATO rules say about all this? Can you even kick a member out?
And here's the thing. This is the central problem with the whole threat. The memo talks about suspending Spain, right? But a NATO official confirmed to the BBC that the founding treaty, it has zero provisions for suspending or expelling anyone. It's just not in the rulebook. It literally can't be done.
So what did the Pentagon say when they were asked about this? Well, they didn't exactly deny the feeling behind it. The press secretary's official response really doubled down on the frustration, saying that after everything the U.S. has done for its allies, they were not there for us. So yeah, the sentiment in that email is very much alive and well at the top.
So, what does this whole episode really tell us about the state of the alliance today? Let's get to the bottom line, what this all means for NATO.
What this really boils down to is a fundamental disagreement over what it even means to be a member. On one side, you have the US expecting full, unconditional support, like access to bases, as the absolute bare minimum. On the other side, you have European allies saying, hold on, our cooperation has to follow international law and our own national interests. It's a total clash of expectations.
And that leaves us with one last massive question. In an alliance that literally has no exit door, how do you solve these deep, fundamental disagreements? That right there, that's the challenge NATO is facing right now.